Just do it, rise and grind, get the bag, all the phrases, right? Popularized in modern day Western culture here for us, focusing on achieving your goals and sustaining that success. But there's no step-by-step process to the perfect life. And studies show that focusing too much on that can really negatively impact your mental health. We've got Dr. Eileen Palace joining me this morning with some tips on how to find other fulfillment in your life.
Good
Great
morning.
topic that I think affects all of us, especially
Yes.
with social media.
Yes. Yeah, Western culture puts an increasing emphasis on perfectionism, achievement, accomplishment, but it's meant to be a good thing. It's supposed to cause motivation, but we find in the research now that's actually happening is just the opposite. They're calling it actually that it's a toxic achievement environment, particularly in our youth and our college-age students, and it's causing increased depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, alcohol and drug abuse, suicidality, and violence. So we're thinking it's time we start to kind of change our attitudes because it seems to be on the rise lately.
So what are some of those causes of increasing performance pressure?
Well, they've found so far, there's probably a lot of them, but what it's looking like so far is part of it is social media. We have a perfectionistic orientation in our society now, do more, better, faster, harder, right?
Yeah.
And so the harder that they try, the more stressed that our youth become. And adults do the same thing to themselves. The second problem is the adults. The adults are going through economic crisis, political stress, and so they also are then worrying about their children, putting more pressure, the helicopter parent. They're putting more pressure on their children, and their children are showing the stress, and it's becoming a maladaptive process. It's causing a lot of mental illness that seems to be dramatically on the rise.
I mean, it makes sense. Everyone's posting their highlight reel, so you see the best of the
You're
best, and you
right.
think that's what I need to achieve.
Yep.
So what do we mean when we talk about mattering?
As a result of this, the research is now looking at ways we can start to treat this, and they're calling it mattering, which actually came from the suicide hotlines logo, which is you matter. And the idea is that to each person, mattering means that you have value and you are loved by your community and by the people who love you regardless of your success, of your achievement by external standards.
Okay, I like that. So mattering, something else to focus on, and then that creates a culture basing fulfillment on self and others instead of that success factor.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting is there's a new article came out on Japanese. So generally, Eastern culture has a very, very different philosophy.
Yeah.
And as opposed to working on achievement and goal orientation, what they're doing instead is they put all that energy that we do in success, they put it into two things. One is connectedness to others and the community and compassion to the self. And so in the community, you're thinking about meeting people with empathy and compassion and thoughtfulness, and they actually intuitive social consciousness, where you worry about what the other people are doing and try and think about what their needs are rather than just focusing on yourself. And yet,
and probably in Eastern culture, something I'm very bad at is finding, the fulfillment in those quiet, stable moments.
Yes, the other thing, of course, is the self, focusing on the self and being nurturing to yourself, and yes, quiet, stable moments. We're always looking for, again, the big show, more drama,
Well, the more you're doing,
flashy.
right, the more successful you are.
Who's going to be more different than somebody else? And instead, you're really looking at the quiet, still, enjoyable moments of beauty and thinking about, it's nice just to have things calm and stable is different enough.
That is successful. All right, 30 seconds left. I know you have some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I spend an awful lot of time doing cognitive restructuring, we call it, which is, again, people saying, I should, I ought to, I have to, I must. And as a result, those kinds of thoughts cause you to be tense in the future, thinking about what's going to happen and depressed about the past. Instead, I'm suggesting, what happens if we take the Western culture and we use that idea of being in the moment and taking care of each other, and we also combine it with the Eastern culture's ideas of being part of community and looking at the beauty of life's stable, even if imperfect, moments.
Yeah, I love this. I think we can all learn from this. I appreciate you. Always have the best topics.
Thank you.
And very in-depth too. Dr. Palace has a wealth of tips like these, all available on her website, drEileenPalace.com. We have it placed on her website as well to make it easy for you to go find all that good information.